Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Barrens Chat podcast. I'm Sod, and with me tonight is my co-host Guck. This is a podcast about World of Warcraft by two guys who play it. And Guck, here we are. We were kind of joking about it last week. COVID-19 / coronavirus has really taken the world, and specifically the United States, by storm. I don't have a job right now. You don't have school right now. That is sort of the reality that we're dealing with. We'll have announcements later in the episode, but basically this episode is to... Well, first off, you rated this week, obviously. Did you play AB or anything like that? Like, what did you do in Classic?
This week in Classic was really all about AB. Everyone got into Arathi Basin pre-made groups. There was a lot of guild interaction, a lot of people like reaching out who really weren't a part of the raid team, but they were a part of the guild, trying to get into these pre-made groups. A lot of that, obviously, I think is kind of temporary. I don't expect next week or the week after to be as populated with people just going for AB. One of the reasons why is there aren't that many rep rewards. So the people going for honor will likely get a bunch of those AB tokens, but the best turn-in is the one that requires 3 tokens from AB, AV, and Warsong Gulch. So you're going to see it kind of dip and lull out. It is nice to have a return to these actually quick battleground queues, but I don't think it'll last very long, especially once people realize, like, oh, I still have to kind of go through AV queues if I want to get the most out of my turn-ins. So, we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. But yeah, obviously Arathi Basin was huge. We raided again, another week of, BWL and MC Oni on farm. Like, everyone else is just kind of going through the motions right now for raiding. I am getting to a point where itemizing in Classic has become really kind of frustrating. The raid tier system for warriors is pretty tank-centric, so there's not a lot of opportunity for upgrades through the Might set or the Wrath set, but with items in general, it's just like you go through a raid and there are 40 people and 2 to 4 items will drop per boss. Sometimes you'll get duplicate items. Sometimes you're just going to continue to get shaman gear and all of the shamans in your raid are geared out, or druid gear or paladin gear, whatever it is. And you'll just kind of be at the whim of RNG and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you compare it to retail where there's personal loot, where when you loot the boss, there's something either on your loot table that you would use, or you just get gold. And, that's already a pretty big improvement. You think about the coin system, you get an opportunity to choose a specific boss to get something off of that specific loot table. That's a huge improvement. Just one of the things that Classic lacks is agency in gearing. It is nice that once you get the gear, there's not a lot of homework. You have it and you can use it, but there's not a lot of agency in you getting to that gear outside of your pre-raid best in slot. And again, even getting that, the quote agency that you have is, okay, well, I choose to run Undead Strat again and again and again until I get the cape. Like, and how good of an agency is that? So this week in Classic has been rough. We're getting into the grind, but AB was a good kind of escape. So, unclear week in Classic.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Getting old after a while, it's one of those, like, good things that there's like an end game for you to push for, but it also kind of sucks because it definitely gets frustrating running the same content over and over again and not getting lucky. It's like almost like you want that happy medium between what retail is and what Classic is, which is understandable. It's hard to get to, so I guess give Blizzard credit when they've done a good job on it. But things that I'd like to see in WoW is like all this hype for Shadowlands picks up and everybody gets excited for alpha information coming out and everything like that. Is, I'd like to see changes to the character progression system, specifically like making systems more alt friendly, returning player, new player, just especially things like surrounding AP and even cloak upgrades for your legendary. So things like that were also in Legion and in BFA. And I would like to see those changed because I think it really does hurt people when they come back. And not only do they have to get appropriate gear to play on par with their friends, but they also have to put in not significant, but a pretty good amount of time and grind into one character that they may or may not like to play. I think Shadowlands headed in the right direction with how you can work on your character's endgame progression while you're leveling it for alts, but I'd like to see him take one step further and just make it a little more friendly or just not even have an AP system at all, which I know it doesn't seem like. I think the Anima system is going to have something similar, but maybe they can find a good balance and make it more appropriate.
Yeah, I think you're right in thinking that we won't see the changes that we would like to see in a Classic Plus or a TBC Classic. I think we should expect, yeah, if they are going to make good quality changes, it would have to be during Shadowlands. The Classic team is very clear in the idea of people want what the experience was like back then, despite the way that people have played. And I mentioned this a lot in our Classic is Not Vanilla episode, how essentially people who have been playing this game for 15 years on private servers or who have found all of the information necessary, they have basically taken the game and changed it into something else while the whole time demanding to get no changes and to have it exactly as it was. So I would expect the Classic team to be set on not doing Classic Plus, but instead just releasing TBC, maybe on like a 2.4 patch, but they do it in phases. However they end up doing it, I don't think they'll do a Classic Plus at this point. I believe they'll just re-release TBC. So yeah, I mean, this brings us to our segue into Shadowlands, right? So there are a lot of things that we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of things on Sod's list of things that we would like to see changed, but the most important one is a part of this progression system, right? So we're feeling it in Classic where the progression at the end game is basically just you're hooked up to RNG and you hope to get the items that you need to make the progression. Or maybe you're on a server where you got in on AV when everyone was running AV and you got exalted enough to get that ring. So like, boom, that's a little element of progression that you had control over. But by and large, I mean, right now we don't have anything that makes your character progress. In retail, there is so much stuff, there's way too much, that the progression that you need to make makes you feel like you're constantly behind. Because by the time your alt catches up on AP, now you have to go and farm essences. And then once you get those essences, now you have to go and farm up your cloak. And all of these things are just like, you're running and running and running just to stay at pace, and it doesn't feel good, especially if you're someone who wants to have more than one main character. You are coming back to the game late. It just sucks. What do you think they could do to improve it? I mean, obviously we want to see pruning, but we don't want to prune it all the way down to Classic where the only element of progression is the RNG of boss loot. So like, what is that happy medium in between?
It's so hard to figure out. This is why I think it's hard. I'm pretty hard on Blizzard and the systems they've implemented over the past couple of years, but maybe like a weekly cap, and if make it so that if you're on an alt, you can catch up to where everybody's at even 3 months into the expansion in 1 week. I don't know, because it's one of those things where like people, I feel like, want their main character to be their most powerful, and some people are the type of person who only like to play one character, right? So then they see all these guys that are just totally versatile and playing 4 or 5 classes all at the same effect with minimal effort. So I think that probably discourages them a little bit, makes them a little upset. So it's hard to find the happy medium. I understand that we're never going to get to a point where gear is the only character progression system, but maybe something where it's gear and then something small that just doesn't have the power that certain Azerite traits have and that AP could have or that essences have. Like if you have your three best in slot, rank three essences, uh, some sort of happy medium. I honestly don't even know where they would go, but just something along those lines because I would like to be able to multi-class without playing WoW as if it's a part-time job.
I agree. I don't think anyone is set on doing that. I think the people who actually spend that kind of time to make that kind of in-game currency still cut those corners by doing multi-boxing and things like that. Like no one wants to actively sit there and play WoW as long as you would need to make a character raid ready on 8.3 and then also have an alt that's ready and then maybe another alt after that. So it's definitely too much time. The good thing that we have to look forward to, obviously, the cloak and the essences will go away, but we're going to get new systems that come back and essentially replace these old systems. We don't know what they are. I'm planning on going back and looking through the Shadowlands content that's out there. We know that there's going to be anima points. We know there's going to be a weekly cap on that. That is definitely a step in the right direction. But outside of that, I don't know what else they will do because we don't know what's the new system, right? We got the weapon in Legion, we got the Azerite armor and the neck in BFA. Are they going to bring it back down? I would imagine Azerite armor goes away, set pieces come back. Maybe they change it from like the neck piece to maybe you get a magical wristwatch and your bracers are like collecting anima points and you fill it up all the way and you level up your companions through your wristwatch. Something stupid like that. Who knows? But if we get a weekly cap, I think as far as alts go, one of the issues that they have is okay, I'm going to put all of my time into one character and have all of these other characters be ready to go. So, it really doesn't matter which character I start with. All of my characters are essentially at the same point. And that can devalue the first time you went through that journey, right? Because you know that all of your other characters get it automatically. I believe one of the best things that they could do was something similar to what they did in Legion, where you could essentially purchase your artifact knowledge. I think it was. I don't remember the system entirely, but I remember you were able to purchase something that would increase the rate at which your alts would accumulate Azerite power or
Artifact power, yeah.
artifact power back then. Yeah, dude. Oh my god. Every single expansion, I hate how this is the new thing where it's like every expansion's got to have AP and the A means something different every single time. But whatever. Like a system where on your main you can pay something like the currency because there's always going to be that like side currency outside of gold that they add for the expansion for like the class leveling or whatever sort of story leveling they want to add in. Being able to spend that for alt stuff is really good. I think that's another way they could fix it.
Yeah, another thing I think they could do too that you just made me think of is so the boost to your AP in Legion, your alt had to be 110 to apply it to, so it had to be max level. And in BFA, you got the artifact knowledge as every week went along, so everybody was on the same point. But while you're leveling up, the AP that you get is so minimal that you don't notice it. And it's maybe they need to up those numbers and just keep them steady the whole way across because you can earn a decent amount of AP leveling, right? If you can apply all those things to it and up the numbers. And then like all the work you're doing while you're leveling, AP wise isn't like a waste of time and it can be applied and maybe it like say I'm leveling my allied race right now and like the AP that I get is appropriate for like a max level character from questing, like maybe completing the big chains and not just like your everyday normal quests and you could do the assaults and whatnot. So like why not give me an appropriate amount of AP for that? I can level up my neck as I go and maybe when I get to 120 I have like a level 60 or 70 neck as opposed to, a level 30 and then I got to do the Nazjatar quest chain and it unlocks 50 for me, but I'm doing that so undergeared that I'm dying to shit. It's a pain in the ass. It takes me forever. So I think that would be a step in the right direction as well.
I don't know what the effects of this would be, but I think Blizzard is kind of missing an opportunity with this level squish to not make leveling more meaningful by, I mean, it seems kind of harsh to say, but uncasualizing the leveling experience by making it hard to level up, by stretching out the amount of time it takes, by making the gear that you acquire through leveling more impactful on the leveling experience. I would like to see the level squish go down to a pretty low level for max levels to force people through like an actual kind of progression system like you get in Classic. We know we're going to get unpruning, so why not add talents that are as in depth as they were in Classic? Just don't have any meme specs. Fix balance, fix enhancement, fix all the other classes that are terrible. But go back to a point where you have a wide avenue, a diverse set of skill trees to go down. I think that would be a huge improvement. I don't think Blizzard will do it. I think when Shadowlands comes and we see the level squish, I think it's going to take probably around the same amount of time to get to max level as it did in BFA. Maybe a little bit more if they add another zone or two, depending on what the design team feels. But I don't think it's going to go as far as it would benefit. I think it would benefit a lot to really make leveling impactful and have that be the thing that separates you from bringing in your alt, right? If you put in the time and invest, the leveling process through another character, that should be the investment necessary to have it raid ready. After that point, you're kind of beholden to the gear that you get, but that's fine. I mean, that's what everyone else is dealing with. So I would like to see an actual, and I hate saying this because I hate leveling, but I would like to see leveling be harder. I would like to see it take longer. I wanted to see it. I want to see it more classic, and that would also increase like the time spent in these new zones, the time appreciating the new art, learning the lore, making people like an actual player in the world. I don't know. I would like to see that happen.
As long as the zones aren't like BFA where they're just a grind to get through. Like Legion leveling didn't bother me at all, and I can't stand BFA leveling to this day. I hate leveling in Zuldazar, and I did the Alliance like twice, so I guess that was okay. And I haven't seen it as much as Zandalar, but holy crap, make it better than that. So yeah, I am looking forward to leveling in the new zones. I always have goals going in the new expansion to try to have like a couple in the first week or two, and hopefully I'll be able to maintain that and accomplish it this time. And I mean, you took my next point, which was character customization as well, with like the talent system and in the gear. Like I don't know if they're gonna redevelop like the old classic talent system, like you said, but it would cost a lot of money and like game development time, and I don't know if they're gonna do that. And who knows, right? How this global pandemic is affecting their game development too, right? I mean, that could slow down the release of Shadowlands for sure, right?
Yeah, honestly though, I why not use that as a excuse to delay it even a little bit further, right? It's already going to be delayed. So on the binary scale of is it delayed or not, because it's delayed, why not delay it a little bit further than what you originally thought you would need and then add in some more of that stuff. I mean, they have to see how successful Classic was. So at this point, financially, incorporating certain elements of that game design into their current product, I think it would help, unless they really are sticking to this idea of we'll have Classic to attract those players and we'll have retail to attract other players. And, that's something that scares me because that would lead to the games actually diverging and us getting less of these changes and more of, like the mobile game, the quick instant gratification, LFR, LFG, all this stuff, systemization. I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, please don't do that. And like you're right, Shadowlands isn't coming out. I'd be surprised if it was released in 2020, just given the fact that it's March and before a lot of things get shut down. We haven't seen an alpha yet. It's only in the friends and family stage. So I think BFA was pretty much almost in beta at this point, and we're still waiting on alpha information. So don't get your hopes up for that within 2020. So maybe that's good or bad depending on how you look at it when your free time is available. So that could be rough. The third point on my list is I'd like to see guilds be meaningful again, and what I mean by that is like guilds have been not necessary for the casual raiding scene in a long time, and I think that's like a really missed opportunity for Blizzard with retail WoW to really make social interaction important in this game, and it's more catered to the solo player now. And I get it; they have an aging audience; people don't have time to commit to that. But I really do think that uh, the guilds and good social structures make this game more important. Make it more enjoyable, and I think it would be cool to see that. I also think it would be great if Master Loot was back in the game, so these guilds can control and properly reward people for good performance on progression, and I think that that would really make this game way better because it would improve a social structure and hierarchy, and it would also like not that it's a good thing, but like it is a good thing if you're on server forums, it would create drama. And I think that makes it a little more lively. Like you see it in Classic because you recognize people on the server, whereas in retail, it's just everybody's playing solo doing their own thing unless they're on a mythic raid team or a heroic raid team that's been together for like 10 years.
The one thing that is still connecting other groups on the same server in retail is the guild system. That's really it. So when you think about guilds, I mean, when I was really into, guild management stuff in Legion, poaching from other guilds on the same server was a real thing. So looking through and seeing like different people's logs and seeing their WoW progress ads and trying to convince them to join your raid team, that is something that on a forum where people actually care about their realm and they care about their server and they care about their guild and all that stuff. It can lead to some good banter, and who doesn't like some good banter, right? It's it's good to get that kind of edge off because there's a lot of nonsense that happens in WoW. You're dealing with bad RNG over and over and over again. They nerf your class, or the raid just isn't made for your spec, whatever it is. There's a lot of stuff that may not be in your control. So sometimes having a guild and having a server and having a team of people that are behind you can help fill that void. Um, WoW is successful because it's a social game, because so many people referred so many other people back when this game was just getting started, because it appealed to so many different avenues of players. It's a game that has the opportunity and the possibility to appeal to a lot of people, but they're unfortunately going through the phase of, okay, we can appeal to a lot of people, but now why don't I just pick the biggest group and make sure they really like it and appeal to them so that I can get as much money as possible? And that's like that cynical kind of Activision view that people take on things that we'd like to say isn't a part of WoW, but you never know.
Yeah, and I honestly like it as much as everybody hates like drama and stuff. It is entertainment, right? Which is good. Like you see it on streams, like and you'd see it on streams more often. You see it in forums, and that brings people to the game. Like if there's a drama post on the forums, people are gonna check it out and see what has to be said in the thread. And even if they don't really have a side to take, it can be interesting to see, and it can help the game. And I mean, mostly so. Like the other points I'm gonna make are all somewhat guild related, somewhat not. The old guild interface, 100% needs to come back. The new guild interface is terrible. There's no customization, and it just really hinders the control that you have in your guild, and I hate it. I hate opening it now as like just a regular player in a guild. It's just dumb, I think. I don't know who designed that. Not a good design. Revert it or figure something else out. That's where I stand on that. And I think the competitive PvE scene right now is in an awesome spot. I think the Race World First is probably the best event that WoW puts on. The Mythic Plus, Mythic Dungeon International is in a good spot. It's not as good as it could be. I'd like to see a ladder. Like you know how when like old RTS games got with like Warcraft 3 and StarCraft, you would see the ladder rankings. I would like to see that not on Raider.io, like on a Blizzard sponsored website or in game. I'd like to see a ladder for that. I don't think that's asking too much. I think that would be cool. Maybe you get a server ladder, something like that going on. I think that would be awesome for that system and make it more competitive, give people bragging rights on servers. It would probably make people more or less want to buy keys because you can actually look at the ladder and see how good or not good that person is. And I think that would be a cool change that I have wanted to see for like 10 years that I haven't seen. And not just in PvE either.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the fact that there are so many third party systems that are almost necessary to play WoW or to really enjoy some of the end game content to its maximum, I think that's a shame. I would really like to see, yeah, just like you said, a Mythic Plus ladder. I want to see Raider IO somehow be incorporated into the game. So you should just have a rating system where it shows how good you are at running these end game dungeons, and it should be ranked. There should be an element of competition for people who want to compete, and there should be an element of self improvement for people who want to self improve. And it should also just be a system that exists that doesn't have to be interacted with for people who don't want to interact with it. I feel like they did a lot of pruning unnecessarily in BFA. They got rid of master looting. They got rid of in-depth character creation. They got rid of in-depth guild customization. They got rid of tier sets, right, as an example of that character customization. So there's just a lot of stuff that we lost that should come back, and a lot of stuff that they've added that needs to be taken out, right? The endless AP grind, the essence type systems, things like that that aren't account bound but require an immense amount of work and basically prevent you from switching off of a character. That stuff needs to go away. So it's tough. It's not like you can't just say, okay, Blizzard needs to prune or Blizzard needs to add. Like there's like a combination of different things that need to happen on both sides.
Yeah, and I think too, like it would eliminate your need to go to the class discords and you could just be on the game. Like a lot of people don't consume WoW content. So like if there's a ladder accessible in the game and you're playing mage and you're having a hard time in Mythic Plus like optimizing your gameplay, you could just look at the ladder and see who's on top and send them a tell. And it'd be as simple as that. And you know, as long as the guy isn't a dick, which he certainly could be, but then you just go to the next guy. And you could figure out, you know, what he does, what works for him, and change your gameplay based off that. I think like communication that gets lost between other players because they see something different in their gameplay or whatever is, you know, that's good for the game. That's something I remember from back in the day where I'd see somebody who's in, you know, farther progress than me in the raid with, you know, a different talent or two on the old talent tree, and I'd send him a talent, I'd ask him, and then you have a good conversation about why he's using it. And I think that's awesome, and I think I'd like to see that come back.
You bring up a good point, but I will say I think that's why if they do implement a ladder, they should also implement some sort of system where you can control who can whisper you, because that would be excessive, right? Think about the number one guy and how many whispers they would get. I would like to see a way to circumvent that by keeping the ladder, keeping the name recognition, but adding in the kind of essential bits to that ladder. So on top of their time and their average DPS, you should also see their talents and their trinkets, or some whatever pairing of items seems to be most important, like maybe trinkets and also the weapon or something like that. But there should be enough information on that ladder to allow you to bypass the need to go and send someone a tell. And then if you are someone who does competitive Mythic Plus, you should also have the opportunity to just be like, I only want friends to send me whispers, and I'm going to just press a button and turn that setting on because I have a really good score and I'm getting a lot of tells, and I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, all that would be good stuff.
Yeah. So my last point, because we've covered everything and everything else, and I would like to see PvP fixed. I'm not a huge arena player, so and I haven't really done arena, so I can't really speak to how it is in BFA. I know that a lot of PvP players have had uh, some pretty big opinions on it, but I can't speak to that because that's not me. But what I would like to see in arena and in RPGs is a ladder in both of those. Also, they used to have a ladder for arena, and you could see who the top teams were on your server. And I think having specific arena teams as opposed to just picking up people. And I know a lot of people do play with the same people every time, but like having that team and seeing how that team performs, I think that's an underrated system. I think maybe they got rid of it because of boosting purposes, but I would like to see that come back. And I would also like to see fur rated battlegrounds because it is a MMO. I'd like to see PvP balanced around a 10-man team, and I'd also like to see a guild ladder for guilds who are the best guilds at RBGs. And it's more or less a pug thing. There are still some guilds that do RBGs, but I. I think RBGs are awesome. I still have only played very minimal of them. I have been enjoying PvP and retail, and I'd like to see them maybe fix that system or ramp it up a little bit, improve it, make it better. I think they're losing out on that because I really do think that PvP is one of the main reasons that a lot of people fell in love with WoW, and I'd like to see that back.
Yeah, I think that's right on the money. I think competitive PvP and PvE are great ways to bring community back, right? Because people will enjoy it not only by taking part in it, but also by observing it. Another minor point that you had on your list that I think is worth just kind of throwing in, seeing only people on your server in your capital city or in any city for that point, I think is a cool little touch because again, it helps with your guild recruitment. It helps with making your guild feel more important. People get used to seeing certain people in certain guilds, and it just kind of adds to all of that. Uh, the last thing that I think we should get into, something that we've forgotten to bring up, is a blue post concerning rank 3 essences in retail. This happened about 4 days ago, the blue post. So as we record this, it missed the last episode, but we're going to catch it into this one. Did you happen to catch the update that they're putting through for account wide essences?
Yeah, so I did. I think it came out last week. The essences were released, I think, but I saw it. I was kind of happy about it, and then I was like, you know what? This is like too little, too late. They should have implemented this a long time ago. So basically, you're gonna have to farm a currency similar to Wakening essences that you got legendaries with at the end of Legion. From what I understand, and as long as you have rank 3 of that essence, you can unlock it on your alts, something like that. Anyway, something along those lines. So I do think that's cool. It's basic everyday things like emissaries and stuff like that. I definitely will utilize it for sure, but I also think it's too little, too late. I really think they could have capitalized on that months ago, and it probably would have made this patch just a little more healthier, especially at this point in it. It's definitely a good change that needed to happen, but they're just too late on it, if you ask me.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, you'll get it through basically any content that you take part in, right? The visions, the assaults, the raid, mythic keystones, or PvP. So you'll get it by just playing the game. But that's how it should have been already. By playing your main character, you should have been able to accumulate something to give you agency to put it on an alt if you want to. And then for the people who don't want to do alts, let them keep accumulating that currency and be able to buy a mount or buy transmog or buy something that's not game breaking but still a cool reward. There's just so many easy fixes that they should have done when they implemented these systems that they didn't in exchange for what? Like having the development team work on more war fronts that we ended up not seeing because they sucked, or more island expeditions that are all basically the same and they all feel exactly the same even though they look kind of different.
Yeah, they're just a chore. They're just a chore that you have to do.
Yeah,
That's all.
it's a huge missed opportunity. They had a huge missed opportunity. I'm excited to see that stuff go away, and I'm glad that they at least kind of fixed their mistake. The issue is, do they learn from this and not implement a bad system like this again in Shadowlands?
One can only hope. Essences were a great system, but not for multiple characters. They weren't. So hopefully they change that. And I mean, I really think that's all the news that we have today. So just quick announcement. Obviously, with coronavirus going on and everybody's a lot of people are out of work. I got my job. I work in construction in the city, and the mayor of the city where all the construction sites is shut down all the construction sites in the city today, so I am out of the job. Uh, I was excited before it happened when I didn't know what was going to happen, and now I'm like super high anxiety right now because I have two children and my wife who is in school. Uh, I Fortunately the company is laying everybody off so everybody can collect. So I have that going for me. I can at least collect unemployment. But now that my schedule's opened up, I'm going to try to stream at night. I'm normally up early, so expect my streams at 9 o'clock Eastern. I will be on at least the next 3 nights. If I'm late, it's because my wife is finishing school, which she's doing online right now, and she needs time, and I can't get the baby to bed. So simple as that. I will stream. You can find it at www.twitch.tv/sod gaming, SOD gaming, one word. And Guck, I think you might hop in. I think I'm definitely gonna start with some WoW and maybe do some keys, LFR, whatever. If there's an audience, I don't expect there to be an audience. I don't know how many people are gonna listen to this late in the episode. Uh, if there's an audience, we can play things, we can talk, we can shoot the shit, talk about whatever you want. WoW, other games that I'm playing, anything. And Guck's welcome too. I think Guck's gonna stream a little bit too. You have some free time.
Yeah, you'll at least see me on Sod streams, and if not, I may be streaming myself on my own channel. So we'll see. We'll maybe be able to hook up some of my old viewers from a different gaming community into the Barrens chat community. But yeah, you guys are always welcome to come check us out. Remember to hit up our information on baronschat.podbean.com under the contact tab or on the right. We've got all of those links, all of that information. You guys are always welcome to hit us up.
If you like it, definitely let us know too. So we fortunately had a handful of people that like us email in, and that's great to read, and it's awesome. The tweets too, love them. Keep them coming.
Awesome. Yeah, well, as always, we appreciate you guys listening. Thank you guys. Rate and review us on the Apple Podcast app. That's where most of you guys listen. If you don't listen on Apple Podcast, shoot over, give us a quick 5-star rating. It helps us get more viewers. We appreciate all of that. Hit us up on Twitter at Barrens Chat Pod, and we'll see you guys next week.